You know that person who never seems to need anyone? Not in a cold way, not in a broken way, just enough in themselves, like they carry their own gravity. They don't text first after a fight. They don't spiral when someone pulls away. They don't need the room to notice them to feel like they belong in it. And maybe you've looked at them and thought, how? How do you just not need people the way everyone else does? Here's what most people get completely wrong about emotional independence. It's not strength. It's not coldness. And it is definitely not something they simply chose. It's something much deeper, much older, and for a lot of people, much more complicated than it looks. If you are someone who doesn't lean on others easily, this video is for you. Maybe people have called you guarded. Maybe they've said you're too in your head. Maybe you've been told you make them feel like they can't reach you. And maybe, quietly, you've wondered if something is wrong with you. There isn't. The way you move through the world, self-contained, self-sourcing, self-regulating, is not a flaw. It's a pattern, and every pattern has a reason. What looks like distance to others is often a kind of precision. You don't express emotion carelessly. You don't hand your inner world to just anyone. That's not damage, that's discernment. Here's where it gets interesting. Psychologists call it secure attachment, the ability to regulate your own emotions without constantly seeking external validation. People with this wiring feel whole inside a room by themselves. They don't experience aloneness as abandonment. But here's what they don't always tell you. Emotional independence and emotional avoidance look almost identical from the outside. One is built on a nervous system that learned it was safe to be alone. The other is built on a nervous system that learned it was necessary. The brain is economical. If reaching out to people in your early life resulted in inconsistency, a parent who was sometimes present and sometimes not, a world that rewarded self-sufficiency, your nervous system made a quiet executive decision. I'll handle this myself. And it worked. So it kept working. Until handling it yourself became the only setting you knew. Picture this. It's late. The apartment is quiet. Someone you care about just said something that stung. A small thing, probably. They're asleep now. The room is dark and still. Most people would lie there looping, replaying, sending a message, needing resolution before they can breathe again. But you sit with it. You turn it over slowly, like holding something fragile up to low light. You feel it, clearly, privately, and then you set it down. By morning, you're fine. Not pretending to be fine, actually fine. And somehow that makes the other person feel unseen. And you feel unseen for being so steady. That tension, that quiet impossibility, that is the emotional life of someone who is truly, deeply independent. But here's the part no one talks about. For some people, not all but some, what reads as peace is actually a very old form of protection. The self-sufficiency isn't chosen. It's inherited, wired in early. And it can quietly become a kind of isolation that doesn't feel like isolation. Because you're so used to it, it feels like freedom. You never feel desperate for connection. And that sounds like a gift. Until the moment you realize you don't feel that pull even when you want to. When independence becomes the cage instead of the key. You can have all the emotional self-regulation in the world and still be unreachable to the people who love you, and sometimes, quietly, to yourself. So here is the question worth sitting with, and I mean, really sitting with it, not answering it immediately. When you don't reach out, is it because you don't need to? Or because part of you stopped believing it would help? Is your independence something that fills you, or something that protects you? Because those are two very different things, and only one of them is freedom. Think of it like a battery. Most people drain in solitude. They need other people to recharge. Conversation, closeness, reassurance. Connection is power for them. But emotionally independent people, they charge alone. Solitude is not emptiness for them. It's restoration. And that is beautiful. genuinely beautiful. The question is whether you also know how to plug in, because a battery that only ever charges, that never gives, never connects, never allows itself to be needed, isn't independence. It's just a battery, sitting in a drawer, full, and alone. The most extraordinary version of emotional independence isn't the one that needs no one. It's the one that is whole on its own and still chooses to reach for someone anyway. If something in this video found you, if it named something you haven't had words for, that feeling is worth following. There are people who watch these videos for entertainment, and there are people who watch them because something quiet inside them is trying to understand itself. If you're the second kind, you might want to stay close to this channel, because next, we're going to talk about something that sits right beneath emotional independence. The one emotion that even the most self-sufficient people can rarely name. It doesn't look like sadness. It doesn't look like fear. But almost everyone who's ever felt fine on their own knows exactly what it feels like. We'll talk about that soon.